Hello, property nomads. Hope you're well. We have some great news. There's finally a bit of common sense over in Cambridge over a congestion charge. Absolutely fantastic news, especially for those that don't like the idea of just plopping in congestion charges, really for no good reason. Of course, they're all done under the guise of climate change and climate emergency. But in fact, they're probably just another tax grabbing initiative, or sorry, cash cow generated mechanism from councils, mostly which are skint because, as with most public service, public sector things, they're not able to manage their finances properly. Hey ho. So on the article, this has come from via MSN, via GB News. So plans to introduce new congestion charge struck down over fears it would hammer drivers. No shit. Absolutely. So there's been widespread protests from the citizens of Cambridge. As a result of those protests, Cambridge will not be charging drivers to enter the city. Now, I'm going to hold my hands up here. I don't live in Cambridge. I've only ever been to Cambridge once. I found it as a tourist as such, and as someone that was walking around. I found that there's a lot of cyclists. There seemed to be a good amount of cycle lanes. It seemed to be quite an easy city to walk around. The couple of disadvantages I would say of Cambridge is if you are trying to get there by train, there are 3 stations. That's advantageous, or there's certainly Cambridge North and Cambridge. There might be Cambridge South. My train information's let me down. And then to get from those stations into the centre of Cambridge, because of how historical the centre is, it's a little bit of a walk. Nothing overexerting, but a little bit of a walk. That's the only negative. I've never used the bus service, so I have no idea what that's like. And I've never driven around Cambridge, so again, I've got no idea what that's like. The point and the premise of this story is that another council, in their infinite wisdom, has tried to implement some form of congestion charge to hammer motorists, basically. And people have stood up against that and gone, no, not happening, not in my city. I'm not happy with this. As a car owner, my fuel bill's going up, my taxes going up, my insurance premiums are through the roof. And now you as a council want to charge me for the privilege of being sat in traffic through the city, all in the guise of clean air and climate change and all that sort of stuff. No bueno. So hats off to the people of Cambridge that have actually stood up for this and have said, no more, we're not taking any more. The leader of the city council has said a congestion charge will not be introduced over fears that it would impact low-income families in the area. Well, good. This sounds like common sense. There had been plans to charge drivers at least £5 to drive in and around the city centre at peak times. Again, if you're working or whatever it is you're doing, that's 25 quid a week, assuming you're going in 5 times a week. No, it's not good. Unlucky though if you live in London, because you've got that congestion charge, and that's £15, and that's on top of the expanded ultra low emission zone as well. So if you live in London or in and around London, you're screwed. This is a bit that cracks me up. So under the Cambridge plans, the charge would have helped to raise around £26 million a year, with the money going towards an expansion of the bus network. It would have included much of the city, bordered surrounding areas, including Trumpington, that's a great name, Newnham, Teversham, and Milton. And the article just goes on to say, basically, that they're not going ahead. There are bits that we liked about the plan, the bits that we didn't like. I do like the fact they have to shove in this bit here. Sustainable travel has not gone away. Something is going to have to happen. Something will have to go ahead because we have a problem with congestion in the city, which is only going to get worse. Okay, that's absolutely fine. That is what it is. And 58% of the survey respondents said they oppose a charge, with many citing the impact it would have on residents and drivers. So hats off to the people of Cambridge. It sounds like there's been a bit of common sense here. Really, that people should stop bashing drivers all the time about everything, because it's another expense that a lot of people aren't or are struggling to pay for at the moment. And the answer isn't always let's just shove a congestion charge on it, because people will people will have issues with that. Secondly, or thirdly, the other things that don't help is that normally when you speak to drivers, they like the ease of being able to drive into somewhere purely because the cost of public transport is just not worth it, or there are efficiency issues with public transport. Now, this is going to be the battle that I think is going to go on for until the end of time, as far as I'm concerned. From a driving point of view, I like driving around. I think that it's easier to get from A to B most of the time. You've got a bit more freedom there. You're not restricted by bus or train schedules or public services. You just get that sense of freedom, and you hold your hands up and go, that's fine. Now in Brighton, I won't drive around. Unless I'm going to the supermarket, I won't drive around in Brighton. Why? I'm lucky enough to live relatively close to the seafront. So to go for a walk or to get from A to B, it's great. I'm about a 15-20 minute walk away from Brighton Station, Hove Station. So that's okay. I think the bus network in Brighton is quite good. It could be priced better, not the cheapest in the world, but one of the cheaper ones, I think, in the UK. That's when you take out the government subsidy. So I don't mind the bus network in Brighton. I'm quite used to it. It's absolutely fine. If I wanted to go to further afield places, i.e. London, then normally I would use the train. Now, even as a train lover, okay, I'm a bit of a train nerd. Even I'm having issues with the inefficiency of the rail network at the moment, and that's because of all the strikes. Now, this is where I won't go off topic here too much on this video, but this is where the rail network's going to have its own issues because of the unions. They keep striking, they keep putting this inefficiency out there. The government's not helping by wanting to get rid of all the ticket offices, etc., which means it's more, they're making train travel more difficult when train travel shouldn't be that difficult. It really shouldn't. A good example I can give you is I had a friend that was coming back from Eastern Europe, were landing in Luton. Their flight had been cancelled, had been pushed back 3 or 4 days. So she asked me, what's the best way to get from Luton Airport to Leeds? I said, well, have a look at these train websites, have a look, go from there. She got back to me a few hours later and said, do you know what, I've hired a car. Why? Because I've got the flexibility that I can turn up to the airport whenever I need to. I can hire the car, and once I've put in the fuel to get up to Leeds, I could drop the car off up there. You're talking maybe 150 miles, give or take. I could drop the car off up there, and the cost of renting the vehicle and the cost of fuel is actually cheaper than turning up to the station and buying 2 train tickets back up to Leeds. To me, that's a damning indictment of the rail network and how that's operated. And this is why a lot of drivers, myself included, will say, do you know what, in that case, I'm just going to drive. I'm just going to use my car to get from A to B. So hats off to Cambridge, or the residents of Cambridge. Certainly a bit of common sense with not pushing ahead with a congestion charge. I'm sure from my experiences, there are aspects of the public network that are good. There are probably aspects that need improving, but that's going to be the same in any part of the country as well. You've got to see these congestion charges for what they are. They're just another tax on you and I, another tax on drivers, and everything's being done under the guise of a climate emergency and climate change. Don't have it, don't accept it. It's not good. We've got to make sure there are better alternatives there, and then that will maybe convince us to get us out of our cars. Hats off to the residents of Cambridge. We'll see you in the next video.